there's a question most people never ask out loud. Not because they don't wonder, but because the answer makes them uncomfortable. Why do some people seem perfectly fine alone while everyone else is terrified of it? It starts with something most mistake for coldness. A refusal to settle. Not in the proud way people announce it, but in the quiet way someone stops responding to half-hearted effort. They've learned that company without compatibility is just noise. And noise is exhausting in ways loneliness never is. What looks like high standards is often just pattern recognition. They've watched enough relationships dissolve into resentment to know the warning signs before anyone else notices. The small compromises that compound. The silence that replaces conversation. The person you become when you're trying too hard not to lose someone. They remember what that cost them, or someone they loved. So they wait. Not because they believe in fairy tales, but because they've done the math. The energy required to maintain something hollow always exceeds what you get back. And they've stopped pretending otherwise. But here's where it gets complicated. That same self-awareness that protects them also isolates them. Because once you see clearly how most connections are built on fear and convenience rather than genuine alignment, it becomes almost impossible to unsee. You start noticing the performance in every interaction. The way people cling to relationships they've outgrown just to avoid the discomfort of starting over. And you realize something unsettling. Most people aren't looking for the right person. They're looking for anyone who makes them feel less afraid of themselves. That's the part no one talks about. Being single isn't always a choice, and it's not always freedom. Sometimes it's the consequence of understanding too much too early. Of valuing substance in a world optimized for speed. Of refusing to medicate loneliness with the wrong person when you know exactly how that story ends. The risk isn't that they'll never find someone. The risk is that they will, and by then they'll have built such a complete life alone that letting someone in feels less like love and more like rearranging furniture in a room that finally makes sense. They don't lack capacity for connection. They lack tolerance for shallow ones. And in a world where most people would rather be together and miserable than single and uncertain, that makes them statistical outliers. Not broken, not damaged, just operating on a frequency most people never tune into because it requires too much honesty about what we're actually running from. So they stay there, in that quiet space between loneliness and peace, waiting for something real enough to justify the risk, knowing it might never come, and somehow still choosing that uncertainty over the guaranteed disappointment of pretending. The question isn't whether they're right or wrong. The question is whether you've ever felt that same pull toward solitude and convinced yourself it was something you needed to fix.